Res Indica.
Hello, welcome to Res Indica IS Academy, India's only design-based learning platform for the civil services aspirant. Desh Badla, Padhai Badla. In this particular section, we are going to discuss the news analysis of 16th of June 2023. And I have included important articles and editorials from the Hindu and the Indian newspaper. And I have tried to make mind maps out of them. I have also added for your perusal the important newspaper pages, the articles and the clippings from where I have sourced this data. Okay, so now coming back to the news at hand. First is some world news. Let us talk about the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia-Ukraine war is showing no sight of ending. Okay, we are seeing that the issue is escalating day by day and it seems like an perpetual war. Now, first of all, the war has completed 500 days. Okay, there have been separate development in the geopolitics. There has been some Russian stance, some Ukraine stance, which we are going to discuss. What is the Russian situation? Basically, the reason for invading Ukraine was that its security compromised by having a NATO country at its border. So everything is to do with the, again, USA and Russia. The hegemony, the dual polity, the dual power, which used to have their prominence in the World War era. In the post-World War era, if I may say, in the Cold War era. Okay, now, but the actual implication is its action looks counterproductive after the NATO expansion. Okay, there have been some development in the geopolitics, which is again linked to this particular issue. What are the development? First of all, NATO is expanding. We can see that from the day in 1949 when the NATO was set up to the present day, the number of members in the NATO are expanding. But same is not the case with the Warsaw Pact. You must be knowing that NATO was a kind of a military alliance where attack on one nation is considered to be attack on all the nations. And in counter to NATO, Russia established the Warsaw Pact. Sweden joining NATO is opposed by Turkey. The news has been going around that Sweden is wanting to join the NATO, but Turkey is completely opposed to this particular venture. And Finland is the latest country which has joined NATO. Got the point? Belarus supported by Russia by supplying weapons, which means that Belarus that is supported by Russia in its venture. Got the point? Another news article is with relation to the BEAMSTEC. You must be knowing what does BEAMSTEC stands for, Bay of Bengal Initiative for the Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So BEAMSTEC to adopt Bangkok Vision 2030 at the next summit. The summit is expected by the year end and Thailand is the current chair of the BEAMSTEC. Marine Transport Cooperation Agreement is expected to be concluded in this particular meeting. Okay, coming back to the other news, US seeks informal nuclear agreement with Iran in a bid to avert future crisis. Iran has agreed to stop the attacks on American contractors in Syria and Iraq and refrain from selling ballistic missiles to Russia. But Iran also expects in return something from USA. First of all, Iran wants USA to not seize foreign oil tankers to avoid tightening sanctions already choking the Iranian economy, especially after the withholding of the JCPOA Act during the Trump administration. Iran is also seeking the US to not seek new punitive resolutions at the United Nations. In this way, they can both have a win-win situation. So this was all for the world news. Coming back to some international one, some more news. The news is with relation to the India-USA. What is this? India to buy 31 MQ-9 Reaper UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, which is announced during the PM's US trip. Most needed. Navy will significantly enhance its maritime surveillance capability over the Indian Oceanic region using this unmanned aerial vehicles. The total cost is estimated to be around 3 billion, but it also includes maintenance, repair, overhaul, etc. The final approval is to come from the Cabinet Committee on Security, expected to be announced during the PM visit to USA. And the Defense Acquisition Council has already approved the procurement of 31 UAVs from the General Atomics. Got the point? Now, jump-starting the next phase of India-USA defense ties. What is the background? Under the US-India Initiative on the Critical and Emerging Technologies Agreement, which was inaugurated in January 2023. Now, what is this agreement? This agreement is basically a roadmap for the defense industrial cooperation. This also aims to expedite crucial cooperation and co-production initiatives. Okay, US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, he has visited to India, and in this visit he has declared, or he has agreed to such things. This has also prepared the ground for the official state visit of PM Modi to USA. Getting the point? Now, India's major defense partner status is being given to India along with the 4 foundational agreements. For example, GIS, MOA, COMCASA, all these 4 agreements is signed between India and USA, which allows for sharing of technologies and more frequent cooperation. During the recent 2+2 ministerial dialogue in April, in which the US addressed that the defense partnership as the cornerstone of the relationship, and China as a common enemy would be a wrong word, but a common competitor for them in the Asian region. Therefore, this has also led to India-USA cooperation reaching new heights. This new bonhomie can also be seen in the light of the Chinese infusion. Now, some news related to AI. What is this? Reflection on AI as a friend or foe. Now, first of all, artificial general intelligence refers to the intelligence that is not limited or narrow. No credible efforts towards building AGI is being done as of yet. Big moment of AI, ChatGPT. We all very well know that it is a generative AI tool that uses a large language model to generate text. First of all, we are going to see what are the areas of use. First of all, they can be used in exhibiting the superhuman performance and can also reduce the human error. They can be used in speech recognition, translation, identifying common objects, face identification, etc. There are also some limitations. Their performance and utility degrade on more general or identified tasks. AI lacks common sense, which the human have. India must be prepared as to establish mechanism for regulating the use of AI, for bringing in some checks and balances before the large-scale deployment of AI systems. There are some dangers of AI. First is concerned with relation to the privacy. Who develop this technology and how they will be regulated? They may also introduce asymmetric behaviors that can go against certain groups and can lead to groupism, regionalism, etc. AI tools can cause serious harms when matched with malicious intent. And super intelligent AI can in a future convert human to prospective slaves. So therefore, in this particular article, we have talked about the uses, dangers, and the way forward of artificial intelligence. Now talking about NCD, that is non-communicable diseases. The question is that are NCD increasing in India? What is the background? The national estimate for diabetes and NCD shows that nearly 40% of the population is hit by abdominal obesity, which means that people are fat over here. And 31 million more Indians became diabetic in 4 years. What is the significance of the study? Basically, this has 2 indicators. One is diabetics and the other metabolic NCDs. And also says that currently urban regions, they have higher rates of metabolic NCD than the rural regions. Why? Because people in rural area, they are more indulged in physical activity than the urban people. It has also said that much more common than estimated previously in India. What? Diabetes and other NCDs is much more prevalent, much more common in today's India. The studies also highlights interstate and inter-regional variation. Highest diabetes is found in Goa, Puducherry and Kerala. Pre-diabetic state is Sikkim and hypertension is highest in Punjab. Okay. Now, how the study impacts India? First of all, India is already facing a dual problem of, on the one hand, we have malnutrition and on the other hand, we have obesity. Both is due to defunct nutritional intake. Exposure to fast food and lack of sleep, exercise, lot of stress also contributes to this. Therefore, we need to create some sort of mechanism to counter this particular NCD menace. What about something about NCDs? Basically, we have 4 NCDs which we mainly talk about. They are cardiovascular diseases, cancer, chronic respiratory diseases, and diabetes. We also do have some way forward. What are they? We need to bring lifestyle changes and go for healthy diets. We need to make programs which strengthen the health infrastructure, early diagnosis, etc. And to provide apt and timely healthcare intervention to the people in need. In this way, we can counter the problem of non-communicable diseases. Coming back to the last news at hand, some economics news. First of all, open market sales of food grains is stopped to contain the inflation which is set by center. First of all, the decision was not deliberate but aimed only at controlling the retail inflation in the food grain market. This affects the state, particularly the state of Karnataka, which promised free rice to its citizens under the Anna Bhajya scheme. Got the point? Coming back to some more news. First, indirect tax receipts rise to 19% in April and May. The target for the financial year is set at approximately rupees 15 trillion against the actual receipts of 13 trillion which was connected in financial year 23. Got the point? The GS collections and the custom duty improvements raised indirect taxes before the devolution to the states. Exports has dipped to 10.3% in May, which and the trade deficit is at a 5-month high. Why? Because the India's merchandise export has fell for about 10.2% to $34 billion in May. And the imports also contracted, but the imports contracted at a slower rate, which means that the slump in import is not very much, therefore a widening trade deficit. Got the point? Last news, why RBI's move on willful defaulters has sparked controversy. First of all, let us talk about the issue at hand. RBI has allowed willful defaulters and loan account involved in frauds to go in for a compromise settlement with the banks to settle the dues. Something which is called detrimental. Why? Because this places burden on their misdeeds on shoulders of the citizens. And this compromise settlement, what happens is that borrowers offers to pay and the bank agrees to accept in full and final settlement of its due an amount less than the actual amount. Say for example that if a person has to pay rupees 1 lakh and if the bank and the person they negotiate at 50,000, which means that by paying 50,000 he has settled the complete amount of rupees 1 lakh. Okay, yes, it has some problem, but it has some good things also. It has some silver lining also. So this is it for today. We will meet tomorrow with the news analysis of 17th of June. Thank you very much.